Okay, so question 3, you can see it's 5 marks. In this question, what they've done is they've given you a table where you had to match column A and column B. Now, if you quickly look at this table, you can see they are actually testing your case law. In a table like this, they would generally test the most prominent type of case law. So the ones that they've summarized in your workbooks or in the homework questions in the workbook, this is where the case law is coming from. Okay, now what is important is that you start with the ones you know, and then once you figure those ones out, the ones you're unsure about, the number of items that you still have left over is then less, so you can start and figure it out. Okay, so the first one was in cash or otherwise, so it needs to have an ascertainable value. Okay, now let's quickly see what court cases do they have there. They've got CRI versus Visser. Now we know Visser talks about the fruit and the tree. Okay, so let's quickly see if there's a fruit and a tree concept there on the left-hand side. So if we look at the left-hand side, we've got in cash or otherwise ascertainable money value. Number 2 is received by a taxpayer on his own behalf and for his own benefit. We've got accrued to unconditional entitlement, capital in nature, fruit and tree. So yes, there's the fruit and tree. So we know that number 4 belongs to Visser. So the Visser case talks about the fruit and the tree. And then we've got capital in nature, the intention of the taxpayer. Okay, now in your workbooks, this you can find on page 38. Okay, then the Port Elizabeth Tramway 1. If we look at the definitions there on the left-hand side, it does not talk about what that one is known for. So that one says that that expense needs to be closely related to your business. Now, all of those things on the left-hand side does not actually refer to that. So if you want to go read up on it, it is on page 58 in your workbooks. Then CIR versus Trust Bank. Now that is not one of the well-known ones, so let's quickly park that one for now. So when you were in the test, you probably wouldn't have known what to do with that one. Okay? Then held in ace always says you have received it if it was for your own benefit. So which one talks about that? Number 2 talks about your own benefit, so that is number D. Okay, so we know number 2 is what Haldane spoke about. And this you could find on page 37 of your workbooks. Okay, then the Butcher Brothers one is a well-known one. It is not discussed in your workbook. They actually discussed it in question, one of the homework questions. This has been brought up. Now the Butcher Brothers one talks about cash and otherwise, and that amount needs to have a value. So the first one actually relates to your Butcher Brothers case. Okay, so if I remember correctly, this was question 4.1 in your workbooks, is where they've made reference to this court case. So when you study, just add it to your workbook so that you are aware of it, so that if they ask it, you know where it belongs. Okay, then we know Moy says that something accrues to you when it is unconditional entitlement. So we know number 3 relates to your Moy case. Okay, so now we have 2 cases left over. We've got a SIR Trust Bank and we've got CIR versus Cohen. Now one of those 2 talks about your capital in nature, so the intent of your taxpayer. Now in this scenario, if you get to this in the exam and you don't know which one now, Now you have a 50% chance of getting it right because you've only got two options left. Then you pick one of it and you put that letter next to it. Do not leave it blank. If it's blank, you have a 0% chance of getting any marks. Okay. This one, however, is linked to your trust bank one. And this you can find on page 39 in your workbooks, where it talks about the intention of the taxpayer and what you need to look at specifically. Okay, the Cohen one, I looked for it, but it is not discussed anywhere in your workbooks or in your textbooks, so it is something they just added in to throw you off. Okay, do you guys have any questions on question number 3?